Hi everyone, thank you for joining our January webinar, Systems and Techniques for Effective Email Communication. We are so happy to have one of our own, Jeff Green, Email Ninja, and Allison James, Estates and Homes Broker, hosting today's webinar for us. Our goal at Allison James is to always give back to our agents by providing education, training sessions, live webinars, live events, and full broker support, and the most up-to-date tools and technology available. We're always looking for new tools and ways to be able to provide them to our agents at a lower or discounted price, so you can keep your hard-earned money for the important things in life and the people you love. As a specialist in the marketing department, I'm proud to announce our newest marketing materials for our agents. We understand that switching brokerages can be difficult and want you to know we will help assist you to make a seamless transition for you and your clients as possible. When you join as a new agent, our marketing department has taken it upon themselves to create marketing materials such as Facebook banners, LinkedIn personal touch banners, YouTube channel covers, and personal touch e-cards to send out to your clientele. We will also take it one step further for you and add customized HTML marketing materials that link directly to your personal websites and the support of myself and the marketing department to help you along with a one-time email campaign, change of broker e-card to all of your contacts and clients. Allison James Estates and Homes is a nationwide brokerage which offers 100% commission and 100% support. Why split your commission if you don't need to? You earned it all, so shouldn't you keep it all? Here are a few of the free marketing tools we are extremely proud to now be able to offer to our agents. Property marketing, including unlimited property websites and digital listing presentations, unlimited personal websites with IDX feeds, and even lead generation tools including lead capture, squeeze pages, CRM, and task management systems, with plans starting just as low as $35 a month. We have plans that cater to all agents of all levels of production. As Allison James continues to grow, we will be providing more of these free tools to help you grow your business. Thank you to all of the outside agents who have joined us today. We feel that training should be free, and we welcome you to join any of our upcoming webinars or live events. With that being said, I would like to now pass it over to Shelley Hoyseth, Senior Loan Officer with our preferred lender, Movement Mortgage. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning, Alicia. Good morning, Allison James. This morning, I just really wanted to talk a little bit about thinking outside the box. Jeff's going to be talking about email and that kind of communication. So I was thinking, I wanted to share some ways that Movement Mortgage thinks outside the box and helps you do that with your clients. As a lender, I am always looking at the whole picture, every piece of the puzzle that I get from the client to see how can I make things work for them. If a traditional loan is not something they're going to fit into the small box of a conventional or even an FHA mortgage. And a few things that I'm looking at that I might talk about the client with, and some additional programs that you may not know that we offer, are things like bond loans. A bond loan is basically a down payment assistance program, or a program for, here in California, we have some California programs that offer down payment assistance, some that have grants. They are really great programs. They do have limitations on the income level. Some are for first-time home buyers, and some are not necessarily just for first-time home buyers. But just be aware of that. If you've got a client that's pretty well qualified, but they're just short on their down payment, and you think they're going to be in the median income level, let me know. We'll talk about those bond programs. But that's something that I go over with the client when I do their interview too. I'm always thinking of ways that we can help them. Another way is don't shy away from a renovation loan. Those sometimes can save deals that are stuck with repairs. If there's repair issues, etc. We might be able to switch it over to a renovation loan and keep the deal together. The renovation loans do still close in a normal time frame because the work is done outside of closing. The only real difference in the closing is getting the bids from the contractors and some additional paperwork that they need to do for the renovation loan process. You know, adding borrowers to loans. It's not just an FHA issue to use non-occupied co-borrowers. You can do that with conventional as well, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So those are just some quick tips of looking at the full picture. Movement mortgage does not have a lot of overlays, and by overlays I mean additional guidelines and rules on top of the regular guidelines. FHA, VA, Fannie, Freddie, they all have their own set of agency guidelines, and many lenders, especially banks and credit unions, have additional overlays and rules on top of that, which is why sometimes you'll find, well, why aren't they doing this when FHA allows it, or why are they requiring, you know, this step when that's not really necessary. We really have very few overlays. So just keep that in mind. And one other thing you can do when you're thinking outside the box is utilize our additional signage on your listings. We have very attractive financing by, Shelley always had that movement mortgage, red and black yard signs. They look great. They add additional signage to your listings. You can stick them on a fence. You can put them to the side on a corner lot. We have a system in place where we can get those to you and get those on your listings without any effort on your part at all. So be on the lookout from Victoria. She will send more information about that. And, you know, the more signage, the better. It makes your house look like, hey, what's going on? There's signs all over the place. We want to find out about that property. And if somebody just has some financing questions, or they like the house and think, well, I don't even know if I'm qualified, that's one more person that they can talk to. You know, if they call me, we can chat about that without necessarily having to talk directly to the listing agent. Sometimes clients are a little nervous about doing that if they're not really interested in buying a house, or they don't know if they're ready. So that's just one more person to talk to, and maybe we can help them be a buyer of yours for a different property as well. Anyway, those are just my 2 bits. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to me with any program questions that you have. We have tons of loan programs, and I am always thinking outside the box for you and your clients. So I look forward to talking with you soon, and I will pass this off to Jeff Green, your Northern California broker extraordinaire.
Good morning and good afternoon to everyone out there on the webinar. Thank you for attending today, and thank you for that introduction, Shelley. Movement Mortgage is a great organization. I recently referred my own brother over to them, who closed a loan and was very happy with the service that he received. So thank you so much, Shelley. It's great to have you all here today for our webinar. My name is Jeff Green. I'm the broker for Allison James Estates and Homes, and if you need to reach me, feel free to get a hold of me at any of those options there on the screen. I'd be happy to chat with you about any questions you might have that came up during this webinar. And as we're going through the webinar, please feel free to use the chat screen on the GoToWebinar control panel. You'll be able to put in a question. We're going to see if we have a lot of questions or not. The topic that we're dealing with today might lend itself to a lot of questions, and we'd be happy to answer those as we go. The topic is systems and techniques for effective email communication, but I didn't really like that title, so I've named it Email is Not the Boss of You, or Is It? That's kind of the phrase we are using. And what I mean by that is your email, you're either going to have to take control of your email, or it's going to take control of you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what qualifies me to talk about email. I process over 1,000 emails a week. Sometimes I get several hundred a day, and I've even had several hundred in an hour have come into my email box. And if you're like me, there was a time in my life when I found myself dreading email. Oh man, who's going to email me next? I can't stay caught up. You know, I was worried about missing important communications. In fact, there were times when I missed a few emails, and it cost me money. I lost a couple of deals because I didn't get the email in time, and it was a problem. We're going to talk about that, how to avoid that. So if you have any of these issues that are slowing you down, we're gonna address them today. We're gonna learn how to process email like a boss and to use some systems and techniques that once you get them in your tool belt, they'll become almost automatic, and you'll be able to just function really comfortably in the email space. So what we really want you to be able to do by the time you go through this webinar is have a strategy to optimize your use of email and turn it into a time saver instead of a time waster, and literally to free up dozens of hours per year and just be able to move forward with processing your email. So first of all, what's wrong with email? The first thing that's wrong with email is, and it's not on our slide, but I just want to mention that, is that there's a lot of misperceptions about email, whether it's valuable or not valuable. It's here to stay. A lot of people, if you read on the internet about email and how to handle your email, one of the things that's said is, you know, there's a big thing, don't process any emails till noon, or don't, you know, only do this or that with your email. And that's really great advice if you're not in the customer service industry. But the reality is, you all in the real estate space, you are in the customer service industry. So you have to either touch the people that are reaching out to touch you, or give them the perception that you are not off somewhere unavailable, unwilling to communicate with them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what's wrong with email? First of all, it takes our attention. If you study productivity, there are two important things, two important resources that you must protect. One is the amount of time you have, but also another one that a lot of experts are bringing more focus to is the area of attention. Attention is your ability to look at situations and circumstances and be able to make proper choices and decisions, and having the right attention span to put into it. I don't know if you've ever come to the end of the day and you read a contract or something and you go, wow, I don't even get what these people are saying. I get calls from agents a lot of times about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I can tell it's been a long day, because when we go over it, they go, oh yeah, that was really simple, and their attention has been fried, possibly by multiple emails. Another thing about email is it's a procrastination generator. It's something that if you're not careful, you'll put it off. I talked to an agent yesterday, and he may be on the webinar today. I told him he should come. He told me he had 5,000 emails in his inbox. And that looks like procrastination to me. It looks like a possibility that he might be missing something. Another downside to email is the constant ping. You know, remember the old days with AOL, you've got mail, you've got mail. And a lot of people set their phones, their iPad, their laptop, their computer to constantly ding with every form of communication. And it's like the old water torture, you know, drip, drip, drip on your head. And pretty soon it starts to really wear you down. You don't even know it. It's wearing you down. Another problem with email is there's a blurred distinction between email and instant messaging. A lot of people sit on their computer all day long, get an email, and they reply back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's difficult because it becomes very time-consuming. It's not good for threaded conversations. I should say threaded in there if you're taking notes. A threaded conversation is a conversation where you have a long dialogue about questions and answers, and it ends up that by the time you get to the end of the thread, I had an email like that this morning that involved myself, my compliance assistant, another agent, another broker, And by the end of the email, nobody could remember what the original conversation was about. So this becomes a problem with email, and you've got to stop somewhere in the process and clarify everything. Another problem with email is it's hard to search through your emails. Google makes a really good search tool in there. I mean, their Gmail is very searchable. It's easy to use, but you've got to spend a little time learning how to do it. Otherwise, even in Gmail, you're not finding what you need. Another thing that's bad about email, and we're going to talk about, we might talk about what's good about email too in just a moment, so don't feel like this is all negative, but your tone can be very easily misunderstood. An email can come off very cold, very negative. I wrote an email one time and I tried really hard, but I gave this short little answer and it was actually a template, and the agent thought I was being rude. I was like, oh, well, I looked at it and I thought, well, maybe, but I was misunderstood. So even I get misunderstood. You'll get misunderstood. It's just the way it is. So it's a hard and fast method of communication that's very cut and dried. And so you've got to spice it up a little bit. We'll talk about that. Another bad thing about email is it could be forwarded or it could be hacked. And I can add to that, it's a permanent record. You know, there's the old saying they used to say, there was some jewelry company that used to run an ad, diamonds are forever. Well, diamonds aren't forever. You can lose a diamond, but what you do on the internet is forever. It's stored, it's backed up somewhere. You might think you're writing a confidential email and you delete it and nobody will ever find out. It's not deleted, it's stored. The best way to look at email is not that you're sending a letter, you're sending a postcard, and everything that's written on there can be seen by other people. So, as I mentioned, you're in the customer service business. You've got to learn to handle email well. So we're going to talk about some tools for taking control of your email. Absolutely critical that you take control of your email, as I mentioned earlier, or it'll take control of you. The first thing, we've got a list of them here, is that your email should be cloud-based only. It almost goes without saying, but there are still a few people out there that use a native application. A native application is an application that lives on the computer. Now, I'm not talking about an application that lives on the computer that interfaces with a cloud-based account and saves the information on there. There's different terms for that. One of them is IMAP, where it stores it in the cloud and it just interfaces with an email program like Outlook on your desktop. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the old POP3 mail. If you ever see POP3 mail anywhere, you want to run away from that as fast as you can, because what that means, typically when it's set up, the email is downloaded onto your computer and that's where it's going to live. Now, it'll live on the server probably somewhere backed up, but you're really not going to have access to it unless you're the police or the NSA or, you know, Snowden or somebody like that. You're not going to be able to hack in and get it, at least not in a timely fashion. So you need to have a situation, and my particular approach to using the computer is any one of my computers could be stolen, run over by a car, crashed the hard drive or whatever, and all I've got to do is go to another computer, turn it on, and I'm ready to go, and all my email is there. If you're in the customer service business, which you are, if you're handling transactions, that's the way it should be. It's pretty much the way the world is moving, but if you're not cloud-based, you're in trouble. The second tool for taking control of your email is automation. We're going to talk about some automation strategies today. Go ahead and pay attention to some of these, and some of them we're not even going to cover. There's so many, but there are numerous ways to use filters, to use rules inside of your account that will route your mail so that you're only dealing with the most pressing items, and you can also batch process or set up automated alerts for very important emails. The next thing that you should consider is staffing your email. If you are part of a team, or you use a transaction coordinator to process your file, you should get an email address for your business that's separate from your personal email. Don't mix all your personal email, and don't write personal emails from your business account. You know, if you're writing a love letter to your spouse, or you got a new girlfriend or something, don't be sending emails from your business account. Make it so that somebody can go in and use it, like a staff member. And you can actually have an assistant process a lot of your emails for you. If they do, it's a good idea for them to put the email, a little tag in there that it's processed by somebody else. The next area of control is email bankruptcy. This is a term that's been kicked around for a few years in productivity circles, and it means that, and it's something I would advise this guy that has 5,000 emails in his inbox, is you pick a certain amount of those emails, you go back in time, you select them, and you delete them all. Because most likely, if you haven't responded to those people, in most cases, if it's more than a month or two ago, they've forgotten it. They've realized that you flaked on them. You're never going to get a response. They're never going to get a response from you. And it's better to start all over again and build your email credibility back. Now that's extreme, and we'll talk a little bit about inbox zero today, getting your inbox down to no emails in it every day. But email bankruptcy is sometimes something that needs to be done. Another thing is time management skills, taking control of your email. And again, this is some introductory things. We'll go into detail on it. Things like batching your email, how to handle bacon. You've heard of spam. Well, the new one now is bacon. We're going to talk about that. Learning to manage your time with your email. Your time management strategies, too, that you use offline are transferable into your email management. The next thing is area of control is templates. A lot of what you tell people is exactly the same. Every time you get a series of questions. What I would suggest you do is that you create a system to track your frequently asked questions. If you use Gmail, you can set up a label. You can just use like the letter Q as a label, or FAQ, frequently asked questions. Every time you get a question, more than twice or 3 times, label it with the letter Q or FAQ using an email label. And if you don't know how to use labels, we're not going to teach about that today. Just go to YouTube and type in how to use Gmail labels, or how to use labels or folders in Outlook, and there's plenty of videos on that. So you take the questions that you have. Once you write an answer to the question, you can save that answer as a template. We'll talk about how to do that in just a minute. Well, that is the next point. Dummy messages and text expansion. Dummy messages is a feature inside of Gmail where you can create these messages, and there's an actual box that you click on it, and it posts the message in. I'll give you an example. You might have a common question. How do I get my earnest money deposit to the escrow company? Common question. It might be, who are some inspectors that you recommend? You have a template for that. Cut and paste, boom. If you get that question asked 10 times a year and it takes you 10 minutes to type an email each time versus 15 seconds, you can see, you know, you're going to blow a couple hours just typing the same stuff over and over again. Text expansion, which we'll go into in a few minutes in more detail, is simply a software that allows you to type a truncated little code, and it can paste up to hundreds and hundreds of words. So that's a good place to keep your templates. You may have your, an alternative signature file that you use, or you may have a list of phone numbers that you give clients, or whatever. You can have that in text expansion. Type 2 or 3 characters, and boom, it fills in a paragraph of information. So text expansion is really good in a lot of areas of your life, just to consider. So when processing email, let's start from the beginning. the first thing you want to do is and just add this to your tools for control, is the 4 Ds. Do, delegate, do, delete, delegate, and defer. And the do comes from the 2-minute rule, part of GTD, if you've ever studied Getting Things Done by David Allen. His whole philosophy is that everything that comes into your life needs to be collected into some kind of container, whether it's he calls it in your inbox. So essentially, if you don't have a place to collect information and tasks and all that, your whole life becomes an inbox. Everywhere you look is a reminder of things that you need to do. So in applying this to email, what you need to do is, if you get an email and you can handle it in 2 minutes, do it immediately and get it over with and never have to deal with it again. It's done. Or you delegate it, or you delete it. It might be it's not applicable, you delete it. And you got to make these decisions. A lot of people sit in front of their email and they get into the paralysis of analysis. Do I really need to what do I need to do about this? I really don't know. The great thing about Gmail and also Outlook has an archive section, and Gmail has basically archiving, and it goes into your all mail folder and it goes out of your inbox. So deleting could be actually physically deleting it, or you can archive it, which means it goes into long-term storage. It's out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about it. Drops down out of the view. It's not in that little box of information that you have to process on a regular basis, but it's still in your computer. It may be, somebody says, hey, I found a really great restaurant here for Ethiopian food, and you think, well, I don't need Ethiopian food, but I might someday need that. So you archive it, and then you can search in your email for Ethiopian food, but you don't sit there and say, well, what am I going to do with this? Who do I forward this to? Or what can I do with this? Let me leave it in my inbox till I need it. That is death. That will take you down and wear you down at the same time. The next D is delegating something. That means just passing it off, having somebody else handle it, whether it's your transaction coordinator. One of the things that I did back when I was solely doing real estate practice, and I had a lot of emails and voicemails. All my voicemail came into my email, and if I had a message that was for my transaction coordinator, I could just quickly delegate it. I could forward that whole voicemail message, wouldn't even have to tell her what it is. She'd listen to it, handle it. The fourth thing is deferring. It's a little different than archiving. It's actually putting something in a box or a folder. You can set up folders in your email for different days of the week. I'm going to handle this on Friday, so I just drag this email into my Friday. Or some email programs allow you to schedule it to come back into your email at back to your inbox. We'll talk about that a little bit later. You can literally take an email and schedule it. Okay, this is something I need to deal with on Thursday afternoon at 3, which is my whatever time I'm going to do. That might be for processing requests from vendors or marketing information, and you defer it. Or you just put it in a folder and process it at that time. So let's talk about communication methods for success. You want to be successful in communicating. The first thing we said was getting some tools for taking control. Let's talk about some communication methods. And again, if you have any questions, just shoot them in the chat box and we'll do what we can to answer them. The first area of communicating is the area of minimalism. There's a lot of great information about minimalism, even as a lifestyle on the internet these days, but minimalism is simply defined in this phrase. I'm going to use a phrase that's kicked around. If you can think of the minimum effective dose. So There's a lot of people that like to take vitamins, and they think, well, you know, if 1,000 milligrams is great, 10,000 milligrams got to be even better. That's not true. There's a minimum effective dose of vitamins or medicines that work. The same thing is true in communication. There's a minimum effective dose of communication. Some people are, they have verbal diarrhea. They start talking. It takes them 10 paragraphs to explain one sentence. And some people do it in an email. I've literally rejected emails from people and said, you know, can you summarize this and make it really, really simple? So let's talk about some ideas. First of all, EOM. EOM means end of message. And this is a strategy that I've used over the years with team members and staff, and it works like this. If you ask me a quick question and I can answer it in the subject line of my email, then I just write, like it might be, hey, what time is the meeting tomorrow? And I reply in the subject line, 10 o'clock EOM. Or I might ask a question. Are you able to meet me at 3 p.m.? Question mark, EOM. What's the purpose of this? You start a communication stream that doesn't require you to open the email. You can read it in your list of emails. You get the response back. You see the meeting is at 10 a.m. Bam, you delete that email and you're done. So it's the EOM strategy. If you want to know more about it, Google it. Google EOM email strategy. Another important way to be minimalist in your email is try to put everything in bullet points and numerical lists. Especially sequential numerical lists are really helpful if there is a sequential order to what you're communicating. It's great if you're communicating with your broker and you have a question, you want to email them, you can say, point one, this happened on this day, this happened on this day. You can give a little chronology. Your broker will really appreciate that. They'll enjoy that. It's a lot easier than reading this kind of mushy big paragraph of information. The next step in minimalism is before sending an email, reread it and ask, how can I shorten it? And if you can shorten it, do so. I mean, you might say, well, why am I shortening the email? These guys can read the whole thing. Well, part of your strategy in being good at email is making sure they do read it. The shorter it is, the more, always remember this, the shorter your email is, the more likely you are to get it read. Finally, the 3-sentence rule when it comes to minimalism. Can you write your email in 3 sentences? And if you can, you've really scored. You're doing really well. 3 sentences or less. So another step when it comes to communication, we mentioned this earlier, is using the techniques of text expansion or canned messages. I wanted to mention a little bit more on that. I touched on it earlier. I would suggest that everybody that's on this webinar create an extensive list of everything that you communicate to clients, whether it's, like I said, inspectors, whether it doesn't matter what it is. It could be something very simple like, you know, well, what are we going to do on our first showing appointment? You know, it could be as simple as that. You know, it's the stuff that you communicate regularly. And the only way to understand this is to go back and do a history of your sent file. And most people hardly ever do this. Very, very few people are willing to do an audit of their sent messages, and because you're too busy trying to figure out how to handle the ones that you're going to send today. But if you'll carve out 20 to 30 minutes of your life, and that's all it's going to take. I mean, really, that's all it's going to take. You spend about 20 or 30 minutes, and you go through your sent email, and you look for repetitive emails and phrases that you use. It'll be one of the most leveraged uses of time that you'll ever do, because you'll extract from there a gold mine of phrases and information and resources. In fact, when I did this, I found myself having sent the same message, and I remembered having to look the information up. It wasn't just information that I had to deliver that I knew, it was information I had to look up. So save yourself a ton of time by auditing your sent mail and preparing a text expansion or canned messages list inside of Gmail. It's called that in Gmail, or getting a text expansion software. Okay, so let's move on here. We've got a lot to cover. The next thing that we want to do is talk about controlling the subject line. One of the ways that people get lost in email is reusing subject lines if the conversation has changed. I'll give you an example. I had an agent who wanted their file reviewed and approved, and I was in another email stream with them, and the email subject line was something like 123 Main Street, and I got another email from them that said, why isn't my file reviewed? Well, so I logged in, looked, and saw the file was reviewed, 123 Main Street. And so I wrote back, I said, well, it is reviewed. And they said, no, it's not. And they didn't realize they were talking about a different property. I didn't realize they were talking about a different property. And they got frustrated, I got frustrated. We each wasted probably 20 or 30 minutes trying to figure out what was going on. I see a lot of emails with, something's been forwarded 3 or 4 times, and it has nothing to do with the original email. If you're on a threaded conversation maybe you're dealing with a process or a sequence of events, go ahead and edit that subject line and change it. Change it to what's the current issue is, or go back and find out what that issue was when you first were talking about, and bring it back into that as the main part of the subject line. You can wipe out a bunch of those forward marks and all that kind of stuff. Another trick that's really helpful is capitalize specific words in the subject line. It might be, maybe you're trying to find out when the close of escrow is going to be, or change of contingency dates or something like that. Capitalize those, because when the person on the other end is processing the email and they're scanning through and they see one little capital word, not the whole thing, don't capitalize the whole thing, but one word that's capitalized, I say, wow, okay, I'm going to jump there and look at that first. It's almost a knee-jerk reaction. They'll jump in and look at that capitalized thing first. No exclamation points in your subject line. Just sorry to say that, but those are spam triggers. And there's a lot of other ones like urgent, immediately, free. I find spam in my spam filter with words like urgent all the time. It's great. I'm really happy that advertisers use it, because it goes into my spam folder. There's a link here. It's kind of a long one, but we'll make these available to you, these notes. The ultimate list of email spam trigger words. And these are not just for your subject line, but they're for the body of your email too. These search bots that are owned by the email provider search for these words, and they will put the spam into the spam folder. Even Google will tell you on some spam why it was labeled like that. So these are from actual phrases and words. So there's 2 links there. I would check those out, use them, and make that part of your toolkit. Always check BCC before you send to somebody else. Before you hit reply all, I guess I got cut off. Always check the BCC. Make sure that you're not BCC'd on a message. Sometimes somebody will BCC you, and then you hit reply all and you show up. Another thing to do is activate. There's a tool, and if you have Gmail, it's called Undo Send. This is another tool that you should consider activating. Have you ever written an email and sent it and went, oh, I forgot to add this, or uh-oh, I shouldn't have said that? The Undo Send feature inside of Gmail, and it's in your settings, gives you about 10 seconds to pull the thing back. It used to be in the old days when most people used Outlook, there was a recall feature on email, and you could recall the email and they wouldn't see it on the other end. That doesn't work anymore. Next point. This is really quick. I won't spend much time on it, but emoticons, little smileys and all that. I used to never do them, but I find that it's unbelievable the response that people give you when you put a little happy face or all that, and especially lots of thank yous and that type of thing in your email. So let's move on to management strategies, managing your email. And if you have that little cup of espresso there, you might need it. First one is inbox zero. And that's essentially, and I would, to find out more about it, Google it. There's a bunch of videos on, there's a real long video on it where this guy presented, I forgot his name now, it's escaping me, but he presented to Google's employees about going to inbox zero. Essentially it means you start processing your email down every day, and at the end of the day you should have 0 emails. Or better yet, you have 2 or 3 periods during the day, like maybe first thing in the morning, middle of the afternoon, middle to late morning, mid-afternoon at the end of the day. That would be like a perfect schedule. And you drill down to 0. You process all your emails. Another great email strategy for managing your email is use an if this then that response strategy. So if you're sending an email and you get a question, answer it like this. Well, if the answer is this, then the answer could, then this is the scenario. If the answer is that, you know, it'll be this. So a good example is you get a message from your client and they say something like, what happens if I decide to cancel the transaction? And the answer is, that typical question, will I get my earnest money back? Well, if you answer it like this, yeah, you probably will, or you might, you're going to get another email back. Well, what do you mean? If this, then that would be, well, if you release all your contingencies, you're not going to get your money back. Or if you don't release all your contingencies, it's a pretty good chance you'll get your money back. Not 100% guaranteed. There are other factors. But this if this, then that answer takes a little bit longer to write, but it saves you a ton of time from rebound emails. Another thing kind of similar to that is avoiding questions. Don't create future time deficits, and don't create emails that create more questions. You've kind of got to get yourself in a mindset. When you get a question, I do this every day. I look at emails and I say, if I write an answer to this email, is it going to create more questions or less questions? And if the answer is more questions, I pick up the phone. That's the simple way to do it. Or I ask them to schedule a call with me on my call scheduler. So don't create emails that create more questions. Next point, use disposable email addresses. Let me tell you what those are. Have you ever subscribed to something, or you've gone online, or Zillow sends you something, or some other service? If you sign up and get this free book, this free PDF book or ebook, and you go, great, I want that information. So they want your email address, and they go, oh, we got your email address now. Now we have a lot of information on Jeff Green, so now we can start profiling him. And they can find us anyway, but if you give them your email address, especially marketers, they're going to profile you. They're going to use software to find out all your social media. They're going to send you emails. You're going to have to unsubscribe from their email and possibly a whole bunch of other emails that they share with you. So there's several websites like 10-Minute Mail that you can log into. It gives you an email address that works for 10 minutes. And you sign up, you click, well, when you log on the site, the email is active, and and it gives you this goofy email with all these letters in it, and you use it when you sign up for the PDF or whatever, and then you get an email to that address, you download what you need, and then in 10 minutes the email explodes and it's gone, and they've got no place to send spam to. Great strategy. Another really good strategy for managing your email is using hashtags. Hashtags are really popular in social media. If you don't know what a hashtag is, it's the pound sign or the number sign on your keyboard followed by some words that are usually all run together. They have to be run together, and they're searchable. So you can go to Google and you can put in pound whatever. It might be like pound Super Bowl, and anybody that posted with that hashtag in their post, it's going to show up and you're going to be able to read all of them. How does that apply to email? Let's say you're sending out a bunch of emails. Maybe you're doing an email broadcast to a large group, or you send emails over a period of time. I'll give you two examples. Maybe it's an email newsletter, and it's about selling your house, getting your house on the market early before the spring buyer season comes on. You can put a little hashtag in there so that everybody that replies to you, that hashtag will come back into your email, and you can set a trigger, like a message rule, that will filter all those emails into an urgent box and actually text you when you get one of those back. Wouldn't that be great? Anytime somebody replies to one of your emails, maybe you're out in the field, if you're interested in getting a home valuation on your home and you want this right away, please reply to this email. It comes back to you, and you get a text message. All the other emails in your email box, they didn't matter so much as that one particular email, because that could be thousands of dollars worth of income. Another way to use hashtags is if you're sending out emails on a regular basis, just over a long period of time. And it could be something to do with, like appraisal. You want to know when the appraisal's back. You could have a hashtag for that. When it's sent back to you, that also goes into a little rule that will send you a text message. So hashtags are really, really valuable in email. Next point, use stolen time. I learned about this when I was in high school, not because I was stealing anything. I was instructed by my advanced placement English teacher. She said, you're going to get really busy in life here. You're going to college. Figure out how to steal time from other activities. We all have to process our email. You might be able to process your email when you're waiting for an appointment. A lot of people forget to do that. You may be able to process your email if you're riding in the car with somebody else, not when you're driving. Maybe you're waiting at a doctor's appointment. Now, this may all sound really dumb, but because it's pretty obvious, but how do you use stolen time? Sometimes you can't, it's just not really valid to reply to a lot of emails, but it's sure a good way it's a good time to delete emails. When I go through my emails, sometimes I'm sitting somewhere waiting. Maybe I'm standing in line waiting for the cash register at the supermarket. I can go through and figure out which emails to delete. Then later on, I only have to deal with the ones that are valuable. Along those lines, Gmail priority inbox. I won't go into all the details. You can Google that, and it will tell you how to set up a priority inbox so that important things are routed to the inbox and they get flagged. Bulk process bacon. That's how it's spelled. It's a new word, a new techie word. We've had spam for years. Spam is basically email that you don't want to read. It's like advertisements for, we're going to put you on the first page of Google. Yeah, right. So that goes in your spam folder. It's not a bad idea to look through your spam folder once every day or two and make sure there's nothing in there. You can pretty much tell by the sender and the subject line. Don't always guarantee that the sender, if it's somebody you know, that email's not spam, because their email address could be hijacked and they're using their email address they call it a Trojan strategy. They take over their email and they start sending you all this junk, and you think it's legit. Oh, hey, download this. By the way, don't download anything that's executable or any of that stuff. You don't know. Just best, if you don't know, delete it. Bacon, on the other hand, is not spam. It's a pork product, but it is email that may be of value to you, but it has no urgency to it. It may be newsletters or information that's sent from, I don't know, some subscription that you have. The best way to do that is to identify all those with a filter or a processing rule in your mail account and put them in a folder, and don't look at them every day. Look at them once or twice a week and skim through them, because when you're single processing an email that's bacon, you're more likely to look at it. When it's a batch of them, you're going to look through and you're going to be able to get the bird's eye view and see which ones are a priority, and you can get rid of bacon like that. So got stolen time in there twice. That's a mistake. So the next thing is unsubscribe, and you should do this every time you get the opportunity to unsubscribe. There's always they're supposed to, by law, have an opt-out on any kind of bulk mail that comes to you. So the easiest way to do this, if you've been getting a whole bunch of bulk mail, is to go in and set a rule. Find the words that they use. A lot of times the word unsubscribe or opt out. You can set those up as filters in your email and filter every email that has the word unsubscribe in it, and it goes into a folder. That may be a problem with some of your MLS stuff that comes to you, so watch for that. But there are certain keywords, and you can put those in a folder, and then you can go through and batch unsubscribe them. Or if you don't really care, just let them go into that folder and never open that folder, and then you don't have to worry about it. It all happens in the background, and you're done. Tracking. Tracking is really, 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 really essential. If you don't take anything away from this webinar, and you take the strategy of tracking with you, you'll add to your business. So let's talk about it. Google email is very, very tracking friendly. There's a couple of software, Streak, Yesware. I use Streak, and there's others out there. If you don't know how to get Streak, just email me. I'll send you a link. And it's free. You get 200 tracks a month unless you recommend it to 5 other people. If you recommend it to 5 other people, then you get unlimited. So what they're trying to do is upsell you to a CRM that they use, but there's no hard pressure to do that. I've been using it for quite some time now. So the purpose of tracking is really that you want to know who's getting your email, are they opening it. The great thing, I used to use Yesware, but I can't comment on them now because it's been a couple of years. But Streak, what they'll tell me is when the email was opened, where it was opened, what device it was opened on. So if I'm communicating with somebody, let's say it's another agent, and I've got a counter offer to them, and they're pardon me, and they're ignoring me, and they said they didn't get my email, and I look in there and it says the email was received at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday in Hollywood, California on their iPhone. And I know they got it. And so I go on Facebook and I see it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're in Hollywood, California, and they're looking at, Elvis Presley's star on Hollywood on the sidewalk, and I can send them an email. Hey, it looks like you got my email about the same time you were looking at Elvis Presley's star on the sidewalk in Hollywood. I mean, that's an extreme case. You probably wouldn't want to do that, but you want to know when people are getting your counter offers. You want to know when they're getting your offers. You want to know when somebody calls you up or you get an internet lead. You want to know, you might get an internet lead or you might get an email. Hey, I'd like you to prepare me a market analysis of my property's value. And then you go, great, is this legitimate or not? I don't know if you've ever prepared a market analysis off of an internet lead and emailed it to somebody and never heard from them ever again or never knew whether they got it. And you spent maybe an hour working on it or more. Best thing to do is you get that request, immediately send them an email. Hey, great, I'll be working on this, and I should have this to you in about an hour. I have a quick question for you. Have them reply to a question so that you know you're dealing with a real person and see that they answered it. That's a great strategy. Tracking. Tracking is a great strategy. You should use it for all communication. You should also know if your email is being sent to a legitimate address, that they're not using 10-minute mail when they're emailing you, and know where and when the email was responded to. And there's a little website out there that I like to use. It's not on the list here, but I'm gonna give it to you. It's called verify-email.org. Verify-email.org. And what that will do is it will ping the email address. Before you even send an email address to an internet lead, you should have that shortcut on your computer, and you should take the email address and ping it and see if it works before you start typing all these emails. And because if the email's not legit, if they just put a bogus email in there and it doesn't work, you don't want to spend, I'll tell you could spend 10 or 15 hours a year typing bad emails to bad email addresses and putting them in your CRM and doing a drip campaign to them and all that, and you just wasted all that time. Don't do it. Get rid of it. Verify-email.org. Another strategy is to forward all your, some people have different email addresses, and I'm talking about business email addresses. If you have more than one email address, forward them all into one box and process them there. Most email services will allow you to send as. So if you have an email address for your real estate practice and you have one for, let's just say you're doing some volunteer work, but you're kind of you're looking to build referrals out of it and you want to process that in your inbox, everything's in one spot. Makes it really a really good tool. The next point is, and this typo there, don't use your inbox as an archive. Don't keep everything in your inbox. If you do, we kind of touched on this earlier, but if you do, you'll never find anything, and everything will be urgent, but it won't be important. So let's talk about email helpers, and then we're going to wrap things up and take any questions that anybody has. So basic email helpers. The first one I've mentioned before is Gmail. I've used almost every email service out there, and my opinion is Gmail is vastly superior to any of them for the real estate professional. You can get a branded Gmail address with your own domain, costs $5 a month. You could be, Bob Smith Realtor at Gmail, or Bob at bobsmithrealtor.com. You can brand it. Or you can do it for free. You can just have, I had Jeff at Jeff Green, or I had Jeff Green Realtor at Gmail or something like that before. Now I have some branded domains, but you can do that. It's not the end of the world. People are used to getting emails from people with a Gmail domain name on it. It used to be back in the day, people were like, well, you got to have your own domain name, and people start chasing domains and having problems with them. It's fine. You can use Gmail. There's a program called Reportive. It works with Gmail and several other services, actually primarily Gmail, and it aggregates information about the person you're sending the email to. So if you put their email address in there, it will go out and pull their social media, and you get all this little information about the person you're sending to. So if they email you, you start writing an email, it pulls up a little window and tells you a little bit about them. Boomerang is basically a type now, send letter email. It works in Yahoo Mail, works in Outlook, works in Gmail. So let's just say you are going somewhere and you want to send an email, but you don't want them to get it till later in the day. You want to reply to somebody. there's reasons for that. We can go into that. If you have questions, let me know. Text expander programs, I've already mentioned those. You definitely want to have one. And another strategy is Unroll Me. Unroll Me is a unsubscription service that will go through your email and unsubscribe you from all your subscription emails. Pretty phenomenal. And there's many, many more. Try them. Give them a quick try. If they don't work, delete them and get rid of them. Don't pile yourself up with a bunch of apps and add-ons and extensions and all this kind of stuff. So in conclusion, I want to encourage you to take control of your email, as I mentioned earlier, or it's going to take control of you. Email's not going away. A lot of people say, well, you know, we've got all this different stuff that's going to happen, social media. It's not going away anytime soon. In fact, there's going to be more of it. Figure out a way to take control, design a strategy that will work for you, and eliminate everything that's hindering you in your processing, that's keeping you from getting your work done, whether it's bad emails coming into you, bad email processing strategies. Look for ways to automate everything that you do, and then focus on the real important emails. One thing I didn't mention, I said I was going to touch on a little bit more, but I want to touch on it right now, is figuring out a way to set up alerts. Your alerts should be shut off on your email, with the exception of the super important emails. It could be a lead program that you have sends you an email. Maybe they don't text you. There are a number of ways to send emails to your text message on your phone. Most providers have a email address that's associated with your phone number. So you can just text, you can just Google it. You can say text to email Verizon, text to email AT&T, text to email T-Mobile, whatever your provider is, and they'll tell you how to send a text to your email. Some email providers or email softwares like Outlook has it built in, so you can send a text. So what do you use it for? Could be you have a very high maintenance client that wants a response back immediately on everything, or it could be you have an assistant who only emails you when it's critical. You have an alert to know to go in and check the email. So I think if you apply a lot of these strategies, you're going to find yourself moving into a lot better space with your email. And so, well, we've gone quite a long time here. I'm going to throw it open for any questions. Anybody have a question?
We don't have any yet. We've just been getting some great feedback. Jeff, thank you so much for the presentation.
Going, almost gone. People are signing off. So
Yep.
if you have a question, real quick. If not, we will publish this webinar online and the notes too as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you, everyone. It was great being with you today.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.